can see that since I saw you last, I have been very busy. I've put together the frames of both the greenhouses. I've just put the frames together because until they're actually in their final places, I can't put the glass in because I'm actually going to put them on a concrete base and then secure the greenhouse frame to the concrete bases so that they won't then blow away. So I can't put the glass in until they are then in their final places. But I wanted to get the frames up and ready and together because they do take quite a long time to get together. The first one I actually used the information leaflet that I had and managed to figure out how everything goes. Once you've got one together, then it's so much easier to get the other one together. So there were a couple of little fiddly bits, as there always are, but it took about 3 afternoons with the help of the children to get these together. Both these greenhouses will go over in that corner over there, facing each other with a little path in between, but I can't get those in until all these trees are down, and hopefully the farmer will be able to do those fairly soon. But I've also put together the frames, the staging that goes in the greenhouses, so once the trees are down, then they're all ready to go in and get sorted. But I have also managed to clear and weed one bed. So let me show you what I did there. Now in this bed here there is a beautiful hydrangea. It was much bigger than this. I wanted to keep it. Actually there's a couple in there. They seem to sort of have spread. I wanted to keep the hydrangea in there because a hydrangea is a beautiful plant. They are just lovely. They either come in pink, purple, blue, or you can get white ones. Depending on what sort of soil you have, depends which colour they will be. You can grow these in a container, but obviously it will restrict their height. But I wanted to keep it in here, but this bed was actually full of a load of weeds as well, and all sorts of other bits and pieces that shouldn't really have been in there. So what I did is I completely blitzed all the weeds. There were brambles in there as well, and I've managed to get those out. And what I did, once I'd cleared all the weeds out and I'd pruned back the hydrangea just to give it a little bit more shape because it had sort of sprawled itself out. I then had some big gaps and I wanted to fill these gaps with any plants that I had in pots that I'd actually brought with me. So I've put a lovely mixture of plants in here just to fill the gaps. A lot of these will actually stay fairly small and then they'll grow into sort of a bush, so they will fill in over the course of the next few years. They will fill in the space that is round the plants at the moment. I've got a lovely little hebe here, I've got a grass, I've got a daisy, I've got a heather, and I've got a couple of roses. Now this rose here was given to me by my wonderful bell ringing friends where I used to ring at Christchurch. And they gave this one to me when I left, and it's called Oranges and Lemons, which is perfect for a bell ringer. So that is very, very happy in here now. This one here, this rose here, it was actually in a bed over there and it was a beautiful colour and I didn't want to get rid of it. So I moved that rose over to here. Now both of these roses are sort of bush roses, so they won't get tall. This will be about the maximum height, which is about 3 foot. They might get up to about 4, but they will fill in the space here. On the other side there is also a little bit of space, and I've put some lavenders in there, and I've put a fern in there as well. But what I'm going to do today is I'm going to clear the bed that is over there. So let me show you that one. Now this bed here is my job for today, tomorrow, and possibly the day after. This bed here I need to completely and utterly blitz. Okay, everything needs to come out. If, as I'm digging, there are some plants that I want to keep, I will put in a pot, and then I will move them to another place. But I took one of the roses out of here, but there are a lot of thistles and just generally a lot of weeds in amongst this bed. Now, before we moved in, you may well be able to see the other side of the fence. You'll see the top of some tree trunks. Now, these were cut down before we moved in. They had to be cut down before we moved in. And again, these were cypress trees, so really, really tall fir trees. They were about 8 meters tall, and they had to be cut down to about 2 meters. They took an awful lot of shade and goodness from the garden. So this bed here has only recently started seeing the sun. So there's a lot of space at the back that is just weeds and anything that could survive in that soil. You'll also see that there's a load of ivy on the back. Now all this ivy needs to come off. It is stuck to the fence, so I'm going to have to cut it off right at the base and basically pull it off very carefully. I'm not quite sure what state the fence will be in behind it, but I will see that when I get to it. But the soil underneath it is, because it was hidden with by the conifer trees, is not brilliant. There are a load of conifer needles. There's like a massive layer of it all along. So these are going to come out, everything's going to come out. And eventually what I want here is I would like to have my this will be my fruit raised bed. So I will have strawberries in it, my rhubarb, and my berries, and all the fruits that I brought from the garden at home or the allotment. So this is my job. So I just want to show you the before, and then hopefully I will be able to show you the after. But as I say, it's going to take quite a few days, so I will see how far I get today, and I will show you the progress at the end of the day. Now, the best way to clear your bed is, if you've got any tall plants, get your secateurs and just cut the plant about 3 inches up from the ground. That way it actually gives you something to grab hold of when you're trying to pull it out. Use a big fork and dig all the way round your plant that you want to get out, gradually pulling back, and it will gradually loosen the plant, so then you'll be able to get it out. Now what you need to do then is you'll need to open up the rest of the soil, and the best way to do this is to get a large fork, because remember, you want to get all or as many of these weeds and plants out and roots out as you possibly can. So get a big fork, push it down as far as it will go, pull it back to open up the soil, and then move it forward about another 6 inches or so, and do the same, and just keep doing that, just in small little sections, in lines. Okay, about 4 times, and this will open up the soil. You'll then be able to get your trowel and get into that opened up soil, push your trowel down as far as you can, and you'll be able to then just shake the soil, and the roots of the weeds and all the other smaller plants should come up fairly easily. Okay, now this is one of the best ways to actually get rid of the roots and make sure that you get as much out as you possibly can. Just remember, whatever you leave in will then continue to grow. Now, if like me, you have a lot of ivy travels, and as you can see, it goes right down. It goes down a long way, and it sends out an awful lot of roots. So if you are going to grow ivy, I would suggest growing it in a pot, okay, and then you can contain it, okay. Now the soil under here is actually, even though we had those awful trees shading most of it, it's actually really nice, this soil. It's lovely, it's very dark. So some of the soil in the other bed that I dug before, that I showed you first of all, was actually a little bit on the clay side. Now this is because you can tell by the light colours that are in there, and it's actually had an awful lot of organic manure put in it. I expect the needles from the conifer trees have actually helped that as well. It's very moist, so it's actually all this organic matter that has been put in has actually broken up the clay soil that was here. It's not very clayey, it's just a little on the clayey side, which actually is quite good because it'll hold the moisture during the hot summer, but also do be careful because clay does set very still and very solid. So this is the best way of weeding a bed, to get the big fork in first, open up the soil, and then get your little trowel in to remove the rest of any weeds that you can find, any roots. And as you can see, it's a stone, it is absolutely beautiful. So I've done this little patch, and then I'll go on to the next one. So I'm making quite good progress, but I think I'm going to have to stop for lunch in a minute because I'm getting a bit hungry. Now I've come across the root of the ivy, and this has clearly been in for a very long time because the base of the plant is actually very, very big, very wide. I've been struggling trying to get this out for about 15 minutes now, and it's being a right pain. That's a mild way of putting it. Now, when you take out an ivy plant, you must make sure that you get as many roots as you possibly can, because it will start growing again if you leave anything in the soil. So I think I'm nearly out. So you just have to work your way round the root ball, going back and forth. If you find that it is absolutely impossible to get out, then what I would suggest you do is you can cut some of the big roots so you can actually manage to get it out. And then as you're weeding and digging up the rest of the bed, then remove the rest of the roots. Okay, now it's gonna come, there we go. Ugh. Okay, so that's that done. Now it has sent lots of shoots underneath the soil and up this fence. So let me show you what those shoots look like and why you must make sure that you remove all of them. Now I'm hoping that you can see this. The root ball, the base of the plant was to my left here, and it has sent shoots underneath, and then they've started to grow up. Now this is one here, this is quite a large one. Now if I just take these leaves off, you can hopefully see underneath the stem and lots of little legs. Now these little legs are how the ivy clings to anything and everything. If these were climbing up a brick wall, they would climb and hold onto the brick, the cement. These little sort of furry legs, as it were, would go into the cement, and when you try to pull it off, you are likely to take a load of the cement off with it. So when you are removing this, you must be very, very careful, okay, because you don't want to damage what your ivy is hanging on to. Okay, so what I would suggest you do first of all is to get your pair of secateurs and cut off the stem. Okay, take a chunk out if you can. Okay, and if they're very thin, the stems, then you should be able to very carefully just peel them away. But if they're quite thick like this, I'm going to have to wait for this to die and stop growing, and this could take several days. It could even take a week. Now I've stopped it from getting any water, so hopefully in about a week's time this would have started to die, the leaves would have started to fall off, and therefore it should be slightly easier to remove. Okay, as you can see with this bit, because it's not quite as wide, if you very gently and do this very carefully, you can actually peel it off. Okay, so this is my next job, is to try and peel as much of this ivy off as possible. What state the fencing will be behind it, I don't know. Well, I've finished for the day. I hope you can see that I've done I've done about half of the bed, which is really, really good. I've managed to fill the wheelbarrow, my garden wheelie bin, and 3 other boxes. I've still got a little bit more here to do, just on the corner here, and then tomorrow I'll do that, and then I'll start clearing the other side as well. I've taken some of the ivy down. If you start from the top and slowly pull it down, it's not stuck as hard on the top, because they're new shoots. So I've been able to take some of that off, but make sure that you do it very, very carefully. But I'll try and take a little bit more of that off tomorrow. But that's a good day's work, and I'm really pleased with that. Well, I hope you found what I've shown you interesting, and I hope to see you soon, and then you can see me clear the rest of the bed. Bye-bye.